Everybody, welcome into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It is a Woody Wednesday.
Woody Wednesday.
Snap judgment style as Ohio State gets one day closer. They are just off the practice field preparing for the Wisconsin Badgers. That's Birm. I'm Austin. Bill is already on the way home for a family function on Friday. Go Birds.
He'll be back in time for Saturday's game, so don't freak out.
Not everybody freak out. No panic.
Yeah, relax.
So, Birm, we were scheduled to speak with Jaxon Smith-Njigba.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a big deal that he didn't actually come chat with us or not?
I don't know. I think it goes back to Saturday night, what I was talking about on snap judgments following the game against Toledo, where you have an availability report that is designed to tell us who's not playing and who is, and then a bunch of other guys don't play, and then you leave people to speculate. And again, maybe this isn't a situation where we're certainly not entitled to any sort of information.
Nope.
But I think that when you don't bring him out when he is scheduled to be here, and on the email that we get saying he'll be here, it makes people go, is he more hurt than than we're being told? Or is this just gamesmanship for Wisconsin? And I guess I lean towards gamesmanship towards Wisconsin, but our job is to try to parse through the details. And I think it would have been a smarter play on the Ohio State part to just have him come out here, even if he was more hurt, to come out and at least act like he wasn't, because now you just have to play this sort of game. One player, we'll switch quickly away from Jaxon, who looked to be a lot healthier, was Travion Henderson. He came in, clearly had practice. I did ask him how he doing. He said, feeling much better. So, I mean, take that as a qualifying word, I guess, much. I don't know what the degree was, but he seemed like he's ready to go on Saturday.
Yeah, combine that with what we saw in here on Tuesday, which was Jaxon Smith-Njigba out getting extra reps with Marvin Harrison, something we hadn't seen him do yet this year, and you think, was trending in the right direction. I don't really read this much into it, because there are lots of times that when they have their Wednesday night availability, guys have tutoring classes, maybe they're getting extra work with the trainers, things of that nature. So it's never just one thing, and I don't really think behind this wall over here that they put a whole bunch of thought into what that may mean or not mean. So
I don't blame them. I don't want to talk to us, so I don't blame them for not wanting to talk to us.
Oh, come on. A lot of them do. Kate Stover stayed out here and chatted for half an hour.
Sure, but that's, what Kate Stover does.
Well, anyway, the point I was going to make was that it's an interesting juxtaposition with what Mayan Williams said, which was, went out there, he gave a pre-practice speech that apparently made some waves. Luke Whipple brought it up initially. Hey, this is great what Mayan Williams said, which was, can't take any practice for granted.
Yeah.
And he was asked why. Why did you bring that up? He said, because a lot of my teammates didn't get to practice. And Ohio State's working through it a little bit. I've been asked a number of times, is this an abnormal amount of injuries? I think the answer is no. Is Ryan Day had worse injury luck than Urban Meyer? I don't think that that's the case either. I've certainly seen more season-ending injuries for Urban Meyer coach teams, just dealing with my 12 years around here, than what Ryan Day has had. So, I don't know. I think that it's pretty standard. Yeah. This team is in reasonably good health.
Yeah, and it sort of lines up, not contradicts, but lines up with what Kate Silver's talking about. These Tuesday and Wednesday practices are extremely physical. And Mayan Williams, more than anyone knows, you go out here, you run hard, you might run someone over and end their week. I mean, that's just the way it goes. Hell, I mean, Steele Chambers was talking about Caden Saunders, one of the walk-on running backs. Some sort of fly just attacked my ankle. Caden Saunders, he said that he runs like Bobby Boucher, and that Steele's shoulder was feeling a little banged up. Michael Hall walked through here with a brace on his shoulder. Yep. JT Tuimoloau walked through here with a brace on. This is what happens in big boy football, right? I mean, these guys are physical. They're playing, they're practicing for playing time. And I think it's great when you see a guy like Mayan Williams, who I think a lot of people have not overlooked in the last couple of years, but maybe he doesn't get the attention that he's warranted. And see him stepping up and being a leader on the offense, you got to love that.
Yeah, and also that's the way it's going to go. I think my sense is that Ohio State made a decision that Arkansas State and Toledo were not going to pose much of a challenge. And the best way for this team to get prepared for Wisconsin, and it's not a true gauntlet, but at least the Big Ten grind
next
coming
month
up.
You got Wisconsin, Iowa, Penn State. Those are teams that are going to hit you.
You'll feel
Michigan
it.
State.
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get hit in the mouth. So I'm just going to finish your thought. I think.
Please do.
They got to hit each other in practice, and that's what they've decided to do.
And they have. So there was a lot of talk about that. Who's pretending to be who out there? What's the scout team look like? What's the good? I mean, I don't think even this week, like Steel Chambers was asked about who's being Braylon Allen and Graham Mertz, and he's like, I don't know. We're just playing like good on good. Like that's sort of how this approach has been, even though it's Wisconsin week. So they're not backing off of that, and there can be a toll for that. You can't play the sport day after day at a high level with one of the best collections of athletes in the country and not leave with some bruises or worse.
Yeah, I mean, on Tuesday when we talked to Jim Knowles, he was asked if Ohio State had anybody specifically last week on scout team playing the role of Daquan Finn from Toledo, and he's like, no. Like, I don't think, and this is something that goes with being a part of the Ohio State football program. Like, this is one of the 2 or 3 best programs in the country. Are you really gaining anything by pretending to be someone else? Like, I think you gain more as a football team if you go out there and say, stop CJ Stroud. Go ahead and stop him. It doesn't matter what Graham Mertz does. If you can stop CJ Stroud, you can stop Graham Mertz. So, I mean, I think that Ohio State, I imagine we'll see some change of pace as you get closer to Michigan and other stuff like that, maybe because of the mobility at quarterback that J.J. McCarthy has. But until then, I think Ohio State is pretty much saying our best chance to get better is to run into each other as fast as we can.
Well, and that's also true because of Mayan Williams, because of Dallin Hayden, because of the looks. We heard that even, is it TC Caffey?
TC Caffey.
TC Caffey. I want to make sure. TC didn't sound right. I don't think I've ever called anybody by that name before.
Like, I almost think his name's like Tony Caffey, and they just call him TC Caffey, and then it's redundant.
Yeah, we should from the Department of Redundancy. Would have liked to talk to him after that run because the celebration was pretty cool, but that's an aside. Even he is apparently not getting scout work, according to Steel Chambers. He's been working with the 1s and 2s this week, which, again, is just another tea leaf to read about how many reps is Travion Henderson getting at this point. How much do they want to make sure that Mayan Williams is just ready to go by a Saturday? Like, there's a little bit of a delicate dance that has to go on right now because of this, because when you're talking about Jaxon Smith-Njigba or Travion Henderson, you're talking about 2 of the best players in the country. If they're at 95%, you don't even want Jaxon Smith-Njigba to practice.
I don't.
You have to make some of these decisions. Is it more important to get the looks? Is it more important to get the reps for Travion or Jaxon? Is it more important to make sure that they're healthy in October and November? Like, they're setting aside everything else that's going on in college football. Yeah. I don't envy the day-to-day decisions that Ryan Day has to make with his roster.
Well, that is one of the perks of, again, working at Ohio State and being the head coach at Ohio State. You can afford to rest Travion Henderson if you need to for a Wednesday practice, which, again, he clearly wasn't resting. He came in here very sweaty and gross. But if you did rest Jaxon Smith-Njigba, you can do that here because you can replace him at practice with someone who's just as highly ranked and coming out of high school and with that sort of accolade. So you definitely see a program right now that is trying to balance things in a way that I don't think we've seen them do in the last few years. It does seem like they're trying to be a little bit more strategic in exactly how to deploy guys throughout the week. And as you said, the last 2 weeks against Arkansas State and Toledo, I mean, they had a lot of guys the last 2 weeks that could have played that didn't. So they're clearly trying to prepare themselves for the Big Ten schedule, the conference schedule, not the pre-conference schedule. But I think it's just a situation where you have to ask yourself, like, what are you willing to risk during the week in order to be good for Saturday? And for Saturday, what can you afford to be without with every opponent you play? I mean, Cade Stover's talking about how on a Tuesday and Wednesday, he goes harder than he does during the games because he knows if he wants to be his best on Saturday, he has to prove it against these guys that are lined up against him, including teammates and roommates like Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg.
Okay, that's the very extensive injury report brought to you by whoever. Let us know if you'd like to sponsor that because it seems like it's going to be a recurring theme. What about an actual football takeaway that you learned tonight, Berm?
I just think that this team is looking forward to playing a Big Ten team. I mean, that was really when you talk to Tommy Eichenberg or Steel Chambers, they don't say a lot, but you can sort of see that they get a little glow in their eye when they talk about playing a running back like Braylon Allen and an offensive line like Wisconsin, that, you know, you're going to kind of get into a little bit of a street fight. And I think these guys like that. I mean, Cade Stover, again, was just talking about how the mood and attitude of this team is a little bit different. They just seem much more interested in fighting people right now. And I think that is something that they needed the last couple of years. So I think it's great to see. And no one around here is going to disrespect Wisconsin, but a lot of these guys haven't played Wisconsin. So everything that they're seeing on tape, everything they're hearing about the way that Wisconsin plays football, I don't know that it'll resonate until that first drive of the game on Saturday, when you realize that, hey, maybe they're not as skilled on the outside as Ohio State, but in the trenches, those are going to be some of the biggest boys you see all year.
Right.
So you better be ready to go, head to head.
Yeah. So I spent most of my time trying to learn about what Ohio State's offensive line has evaluated, how deep the film. They have watched film, Berm.
Yeah, naturally.
I can confirm.
Yeah.
But I wanted to know how far back they went with Jim Leonhard to see the number of pressures, the different looks that Wisconsin is throwing out there. Like to bring that. I don't know if they do that every single week, but I know that they do it against Ohio State to try and disrupt their passing attack. Not always with the greatest success. So, Luke Whipler said he'd gone back several years, and Paris Johnson said, well, this year I'm actually learning how to watch film because Luke is so good. He's like, we just call him Coach Whipler. So they're looking at that, and Luke didn't seem to believe that it was that exotic what they were going to face.
It's not exotic, but it is different because most teams anymore don't just blitz the linebacker, because defensive ends and edge rushers are pretty much where you win in college football if you have the elite at that position. But if you go back to 2019 against Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game, that was how Wisconsin got ahead. That's how they got to Justin Fields, was just sending Chris Orr, the linebacker, over and over and over. So I don't think that they'll do that this weekend, just because CJ Stroud is so much better picking up the blitz and identifying who's going to be open a little bit quicker than Justin was able to at that time in his career. So I'm interested in what they think they'll do different, and that's really the thing to me.
Yeah, that's interesting, and there'll probably be something. If Jim Leonhard is the defensive coordinator that we think he is, he'll probably have something that they haven't seen before. So, how quickly can Justin Fry, Kevin Wilson, Ryan Day adjust to that? And then you have a group that they played well against Notre Dame. We know they've only given up 2 sacks. There were no pressures at all allowed against Toledo, which that was a pretty good defensive front. They had some good dudes there, but Paris Johnson is still just the first month into this playing as a full-time left tackle. First month of starts for Donovan Jackson. Luke Whipler is an exception there. He's got a year under his belt, but for Matthew Jones and then DeJuan Jones still trying to maybe take that next step at right tackle, handle speed rush and things like that. It's still, fair to wonder how well the offensive line will hold up to that if it's going to be sustained pressure, which that's my assumption is that it will.
Yeah, especially against a team, again, that is as physically comparable as Wisconsin is. They will have guys who are the same size as Ohio State. So what I wonder is, if you look at Jim Leonhard and his, competency as a defensive coordinator, he's one of the best in the country. I would assume he watched that Notre Dame game pretty close and said, hey, let's just make them beat us in that 7 and 8 yard spot and not allow the big plays to happen. Don't give CJ Stroud the chance to beat you 25, 30 yards down the field. And if that's the case, Wisconsin, who does not have a sack this season from a defensive lineman, I think you could see them try to beat Ohio State up front without sending the linebackers and trying to settle down into some sort of zone to force CJ to be much more calculating with the ball, as opposed to having the opportunity to let the Buckeyes out-athlete Wisconsin when they'd be outnumbered in a blitz pickup. So it's just going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. I don't think anyone really knows what to expect from Wisconsin, because you can't. They played 2 terrible teams, and then they lost to the only Power 5 team on their schedule, but it was a game that Wisconsin essentially just puked all over themselves and gave away. So it's not like you can count on them to do that again, but you also can't ignore the fact that the one team that was they lost to.
This was a very serious version of snap judgments.
I mean, I'm just talking about guys puking all over themselves.
I don't know, but that's what they did. I don't think I made that up.
No, I mean, that's what it was. I think that it's weird when you have the delineation between the non-conference schedule and the conference schedule, and then you jump into the conference schedule with Wisconsin, who they don't play often. But I think 6 of the last 8 games against Wisconsin have been decided by less than 7 points. Like, it is and the 2 that weren't was 2019 at Ohio Stadium when it was 38-7, and then 59-0 in 2014. So this is a team. Wisconsin's a proud program. I don't know that you can expect to just do whatever you want, and I don't think that they're going to be so naive to come in here and do exactly what they've done. So I just think that's it's almost like it's the first game of the season again, because they are not a program that has really had to do much as far as showing what they want to be this year, but until now.
Well, it's because the pre-con is over.
The pre-con is over, right. And, now we're in the post-con, post-pre-con.
I think it's the
We're in the intercon.
The
intercontinental divide.
Yeah, we're in it now.
Yeah.
So maybe it's Bill that makes us weird.
Maybe. He does have a strange, aura of weirdness about him. And I can say that because he certainly won't listen to this. Bill's really weird.
No. He's actually the kind of weird that will want to listen to this. Be like, I should have been there.
That's true.
I miss it.
I would have liked tonight to have an opportunity to talk to some of the offensive players that will have to really face the back end of the Wisconsin defense and see if they've seen anything that would open up some passing lanes, or if they think that they can beat it. Wisconsin is playing without 3 of their best defensive backs.
Is that bad?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want that. If I was playing against Ohio State, the last team that played without 3 of their starting defensive backs that I can recall was Utah in the Rose Bowl. And Ohio State played that game without 2 first-round NFL draft picks at wide receiver and had the best passing game in the history of the school. So, to me, that seems bad.
Yeah.
But again, I think that we can count on, the Wisconsin defensive coordinator, Jim Leonard, and the Badgers defense being a little bit better than Utah was at that moment.
You can count on me waiting for you in the parking lot. Happy Gilmore. Okay. I think you're just a little too serious tonight.
I just feel like we need to talk about real down-home football. This is the Buckeyes and Badgers in 3 days at Ohio Stadium at night in a wear black game. We're wearing black right now.
We're already ready. I give up. I can't even make him smile tonight, America.
No, I spent too much time around Steel Chambers and Tommy Eichenberg and Cade Stover tonight. I can't be in a joking mood. Those guys make me want to rip people's faces off.
Man.
We have Ryan Day's lightning round on Thursday. We have, of course, the podcast daily coming up on Thursday. And
more serious football talk with Jesse Temple of The Athletic.
So looking forward to that. And you should be too, America. Other than that, we're out of here.
We'll see you tomorrow on the podcast. And get ready. Saturday night, wear black. Bye.